All right, guys, welcome back into the 85. I'm your host, Cole Kmet, on Victory Tuesday. Adam Hogue, how we doing?
Good. Always good after a win.
Always good after a win, yes. Corrections are always easier after a win, that's for sure.
It's true. But win or lose, the 85 is always powered by Ankin Law. Injury law made personal. They're here to help. Visit ankinlaw.com to learn more.
Good victory the other day. Yeah. Get back to 2-2, 500. Obviously not perfect by any means. You know, after you look at the tape, there's always things that you wish you could have done better at. But get back to 500 before these next two games, before the bye week. And I thought a lot of good positives for us offensively in terms of getting the run game going, which was big. Obviously getting DeAndre in space and doing he does best. That was really cool to see on the screen passes. And then obviously the big touchdown run. I thought Caleb played a really efficient football game. So that was really awesome to see. And then obviously the defensive unit continues to impress, getting that turnover there in the red zone that sparked our first touchdown. And then the special teams unit, obviously everyone saw what Tory could do and what type of weapon that is for us as a team. And to be able to pin a team down late in the game like that when they got the quarterback that they got, and, you know, make him drive 90, 95 yards, whatever it was, to go win a game. That's a hard thing to do offensively. I don't care who you have at quarterback. And, you know, when we got a punter like that who's punting the way he did the other day, you can win a lot of football games, and, you know, especially with the defense that we got. So a lot of good stuff overall all around, but definitely things that we can get fixed up here going in this next week to Carolina. But definitely a big positive going forward.
Well, look, the punting is going to get some play on this show today. That's
for sure. Yeah.
And we got the shirt down here too, if you're watching on YouTube. Punting is winning, and we'll talk a little bit more on that later. But Tory Taylor joining the show today as well. The first thing I wanted to ask you about was the game ball that went to your teammate, Marcedes Lewis.
Yeah.
272 starts in the NFL, most of any tight end, passing Jason Witten. Another former guest on the show already, Marcedes Lewis, and I know I would encourage people, if you missed that episode, to go back and listen to it to understand how he got to 272, because he basically laid out his entire
his regimen,
everything he does, and it's fascinating to listen to. But just how cool was that for you guys after the game to see him get that game ball?
Oh, that was awesome. I mean, we see him, and he's got his bald head, and he's beating in sweat, and, you know, at that point he kind of looked like he was a 4-year-old man in the moment, but. Man, when you see him, the way he works every day and the way he operates on the football field, you know, you could swear he could just keep playing this game forever with the way he's doing it. And to see a guy like that get that type of recognition after the game, after the win like that, was really, really special. And, you know, he's been a huge role model to me. And, you know, not only have I looked up to him before I even knew him, but now that I've known him and been in the room with him, he's been a special person in my life, a special teammate, that's for sure. And his speech, I don't know if did they put out his speech at all?
Yeah. The Bears
really,
put out
really cool. Yeah. And, you know, when he just said, really profound when he just says, you know, football's my life. And he's dedicated his whole life up to this point to this sport. And it just reflects in his work ethic and what he's been able to do. And obviously at 272 games at tight end, pretty special stuff. And we're glad to have him on the football team.
I thought it was cool him talking about, too, in that speech, just, you know, your guys' brotherhood, he used the word believe, you know, believing in what you guys are doing, and just kind of reassuring, I think, to the rest of your locker room that he believes in this unit. I thought that was a cool way for that entire week to end, because the storyline during the week was a lot about the meeting you guys had with Shane Waldron and you know, just being honest, like from the outside, a lot of times when you hear like, oh, they're already having meetings and it's week 4, that can kind of be perceived really negatively. But then you guys went out there, you got the win. And then I think it's helpful to hear Marcedes Lewis actually talk to the team and for the Bears to put that out, because I think it painted a completely different perspective, because that's in the locker room. That's real. That's what he's saying to you guys to kind of cap off what was maybe a little bit of a tumultuous week, but show that you guys came out on the right end of it.
Yeah, I definitely could see why it could seem like that from an outside perspective, but like the way that Big Dog's talking there in that speech is more so how those conversations go. And whether it's, you know, Big Dog obviously talking like that, and he's great when he gets on in front of everybody and talking like in those ways, and it's really cool to listen to. But those are all things that we talk about in the meeting time, and I know everyone made it seemed like a huge deal about the thing with Shane and the meeting with Shane, but those things are actually very normal, I think, throughout a season. And I think it's healthy to do those type of things, and really just kind of getting feedback, from Shane. What as players can we do better, and what do you need to see from us in order to get these things going? And obviously him meeting with the offensive captains in that regard, and then him wanting to know that what he felt like, what we feel like he could do better with, and we gave him some things there, and it was a good collaborative thing, and in terms of us taking our steps forward and continuing to establish an identity on offense. And I think you saw that step forward be taken on Sunday with the run game taken up there and being really efficient in the pass game. So I thought a lot of good stuff that came from that, and we were really detailed throughout the week in practice, and there might have been a sense of press from everybody, but I think that's healthy to a certain extent. You don't want to be too pressed where you're not relaxed at all and you're uptight, but a little bit of press and that feeling that little bit of angst and edge, I think is healthy during the week. And now coming off of a win, the challenge is going to be to be able to maintain that for this week and the weeks to come throughout the season.
One of the things that came out of that too, I wanted to ask you about, and again, I mean, this is coming from Marcedes Lewis. Like, I want to stress that again. Like, he was the one that was talking in the locker room, and he's just not a guy that would have been talking about it if it was a problem.
Right.
And I think he was trying to get the point across of what the messages really were and the accountability that was involved. And one of the things I thought was interesting that he said was that Shane Waldron was actually listing, some of the plays that he was taking ownership for, that maybe he shouldn't have called, and showing that accountability back to the players. Again, you were in this meeting, so I want to hear it from you and see if you can kind of add more context to that part of it.
Yeah, well, I think that's important for any coach to do, and Flus does this, and obviously now that we know that Shane does this, and it's important to do that because you gain actually credibility with your players. And so now that when Shane comes to me and he's making a correction to me in front of everybody, I'm not feeling hurt about it or feeling some way about it. And it just shows that we're all going to take ownership of this whole thing together. And as I've said in previous podcasts, leaving your ego at the door is a big deal. And when you have the coach and the player do that, it can be a really healthy environment for that. And I thought that it was really big of Shane to do stuff like that. And but again, I don't think that's anything truly profound. Maybe to fans that is, but that's pretty normal. And again, it is cool to see Shane take ownership of that, and then just it makes guys feel better about getting called out in meetings when stuff like that happens.
So you guys are 2-2 now through 4 weeks of the season. It seems like with Caleb, it's been getting better each week. Just how overall, and I know you guys are always on to the next game and thinking about this week, but just how do things feel right now through 4 weeks of the season?
Yeah, I think things feel good. I mean, obviously not where we want to be. I think we all feel like in the locker room we could be a 4-0 football team right now, and but that's in the past at this point. And we're 2-2 with a game here coming up that we feel is very, very winnable at home, and then obviously going in the London game before the bye week. So I think we feel good about where we're at. Obviously, special teams unit is operating at a high clip, whether it's the kicking game or those guys running downfield and all those type of things. And defensively, obviously, they're still doing their thing in terms of stopping the run and creating those turnovers for us. And offensively, I thought we've been taking steps up every week. And I know the storyline will always be about the quarterback because that's just the nature of the beast here. But I thought along with Caleb, I think everyone else has been taking steps up forward in their play as well, which is going to help him too. So, but Caleb's been great, and it's cool to see some of those throws he made the other day. The seam ball to me down the middle was awesome and super exciting for me to catch that football and to execute on that type of play. And then obviously the throw to DJ in the back of the end zone there was just an absolute dart of a throw. So really cool to see all that type of stuff, and hopefully see more of that to come.
So you were also on CSGO Bears today, and we touched on this, but I want to see if we can get a little bit more on it. But you brought up that seam ball he throws to you.
Yeah.
First of all, I want to hear, what's that like being on the receiving end of that? You got to see. Do you even see that linebacker that he's throwing over?
Well, I know that I can periff him when I'm releasing, and I'm hoping that he takes a little bite on the run cell, and he took just enough. And but once I clear those linebacker, I'm looking for the ball pretty quickly there and trying to see like where Caleb's trying to fit that within the seam area, and threw it a little bit over the middle, and I literally saw the dude's fingertip, and it glossed right over his fingertip, and then made the catch, and was really excited about that, and obviously that led into the touchdown run by DeAndre the next play. So, but just a great NFL football play, I thought, overall, and I know we were talking about it on CHGO Bears, but it's a play that Peyton Manning kind of started, and Tom Brady and Gronk really took over during the prime of those two guys, and a lot of those seam balls that you see Gronk catch down the middle are off that type of concept and off that type of play, and hopefully that's something that we can continue doing more of as we progress here, and but with that you got to continue to run the ball effectively to get those type of looks.
So is that like the best it gets for a tight end? You get that catch and then you hit a nice block on a long touchdown run?
It's the best. It's great.
Like that's gotta be the best, right there.
It's the best. Yeah, you catch the ball, you catch an explosive seam ball down the middle, and then right into the next play you're cutting an end, and then your running back's taken to the house. I mean, that's the best. Yeah, that's the dream scenario. Right,
and we talked about this. We had the celebration conversation last week, but again, it was just like a subtle little fist pump. Yeah, on the where you're still on the ground after the key block.
Yeah.
And just a little fist pump.
A little fist pump there. Yeah. No, I was feeling it a little bit. At that point in the game, you're getting pretty tired, and then you get up, just gave a little fist pump, just a little satisfaction there. And then immediately I thought, oh, shit, that's a loaf.
Oh, because you didn't get out, you didn't chase down.
No one said, someone says see something now on here, but no one said anything on the film. So I did not get a loaf on that play, where I definitely probably should have.
That's funny.
Yeah, that was the first thing right after he scored, I went, oh, I turned to Caleb, I'm like, God, I think I got a loaf there. I'm going to get a loaf there. But whatever, we scored. We're all good.
I'm guessing, I think we just learned that there's got to be exceptions to the loaf sometimes.
I don't know. I don't know. Flus might get a hold of that one and say, hey, man, that was a loaf, which I have to take. I mean, it definitely was, because I didn't pop up and run after the ball carrier like I probably should have. But I knew he was scoring.
Well, it seemed like when you looked up, like at that point, he
was gone.
Yeah,
he was gone.
Like that's the key play right
there.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I mean, big win for you guys. I was saying going into the game, anytime you got Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford on the other side of the ball, it doesn't really matter what the injury reports say or anything like that.
Well, that was a cool, I thought, to watch from the sideline, kind of cat and mouse game between Flus and McVay a little bit as well. Like, he hit some explosives, but then, Flus dialed up some pressures where, Jaquan came free on that one, and, obviously got him a couple times there too. So it's cool to see, two high-level coordinators kind of going at it, and, obviously we got the better end of it there, but that's fun to watch to me, especially on the sideline.
The Montez strip sack too. You ended up on a tight end and getting help from I think a rookie wide receiver too, a young wide receiver coming across, and like in hindsight, you're like, I probably want a little bit more on Montez Sweat there, but that's a part of what you're talking about, that that kind of the cat and mouse game, because that was obviously huge. But you guys were down 6-0. That play happens. You're able to take the lead.
7-6. It's huge. Yeah. It's massive. Yeah. No, it was a big play for sure. So,
what did that feel like? In your time here with Matt Eberflus, kind of what you guys have been preaching, the culture, the way you guys play football. Did that game feel like maybe the most complimentary?
I thought so.
Played?
Yeah, I think starting with they missed the field goal at the end of the half.
That was a huge. I was talking about the post. That was a huge sequence. You have to get points there.
Have to get points, and Caleb was upset going into the locker room because we didn't get the touchdown, but getting the 3 there is huge. And so now you're up 4 instead of 1, and they start with the ball coming out of the half, and from there. But that was a huge. I thought a huge deal being able to get points at the end of the half. I thought that looked to me like that was real NFL football. Miss the field goal, take advantage of the situation, get down, get the 3 points, take a 4-point lead going into the half, and then from there I thought it was just really good complimentary football on the way out. So
6-point swing, you guys won by 6.
Yep, it's huge.
I mean that stuff adds up throughout the game.
Absolutely.
So, and special teams. So miss field goal on one end, you make the field goal on the other, you punt the ball well the entire time. I think that's a great way to bring in our guest on today's show.
Yeah, so we're going to have Tory Taylor on. Obviously, a heck of a day punting on Sunday, and he's got like every club in the bag, which is pretty cool. It's like he's playing golf out there. So,
well, Flu said he had 2 sand wedges. I'm like,
okay. Is that allowed?
Yeah. I think when he said it, I'm like, I think that's illegal.
I think
you need to have like your gap wedge and your sand wedge.
Maybe in Australia they allow it. So, but we'll see. So a great interview here with Tory. Hope you guys enjoy it. A lot of cool nuances in terms of the punting game and what you think may be true and may not be true. But cool stuff here from Tory Taylor. Welcome in, Tory Taylor, rookie punter for the Chicago Bears. 4th round pick. I didn't know that they did 4th round picks for punters, but we found out the other day why. Tory, how we doing? Where's the podcast finding you right now?
I'm good, man. Thanks very much for having me on. Just at my apartment in Vernon Hills. Won't give the exact location, but yeah, here I am. So no, thanks very much for having me on, man.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming on. Obviously, big day the other day. One of the top performers of the day, game ball the other day. Just talk to me about what that was like, the game that you had the other day. And I know that there was some record that you were going for that you got kind of screwed out of because we didn't get one more first down at the end. But how you felt the other day and what that was like for you.
Yeah, first and foremost, I wasn't going for any record or anything like that. I didn't know that existed until one of the media guys told me in the locker room, and I wish he never did. But yeah, it was obviously it was pretty special kind of just to be back at Soldier Field. And, I probably said it a few times the other day in interviews and whatnot. Didn't really have my best game against the Colts whatsoever. And yeah, it was probably just a really good learning curve in general. But yeah, it was kind of just good to get back on the horse and hit a few good balls, and most importantly, got the win as well. And I know people probably, look at the stats and say, "Oh, great punting and whatnot," but there's 10 other guys out there on the field busting their ass as well that deserve just as much credit. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it was kind of just good to be back in Soldier Field and get the win, and yeah, kind of just move on to next week now.
What's that been like? I know for talking to Cairo and other kickers that visit in Soldier, what's that been like as a punter, kind of trying to learn to adapt to play there? I know you obviously you're used to the Midwest weather, and in Iowa, I'm not sure how that compares wind wise, but what has it been like getting used to Soldier Field and the conditions in the Chicago area?
Yeah, it certainly has its challenges, that for sure. And I think there's only going to be more and more challenges as the season progresses and it starts to get windier and colder and whatnot. But I think it's one of those things that it's not. I don't want to go into too much detail because I'll sound like one of those specialist nerds. But it's one of those things
we want the detail. Like, let's hear it.
It's one of those things that it's not necessarily what the wind does to the ball when it leaves my foot. It's more so what it does from by the time I drop it and make contact with my with the ball. And it's one of those things that if I've got like a right to left wind and the wind throws it inside, that's when things can kind of go a little bit astray. So you kind of got to change a few things technique wise. But yeah, I mean, Soldier Field's probably as difficult as it comes, and you kind of see the challenges it brings amongst other guys that come in and play there. And no disrespect to Cardi or anything like that, the kicker yesterday, but you kind of see that his ball tailed off to the left, and that's not to say he's a bad kicker or anything like that. I think it's just really the challenges that Soldier Field brings in general to us punters and kickers.
So going back to the beginning for you, obviously from Australia, and we talked to Cairo a couple weeks ago from Brazil. I'd assume American football is not, the prime and number one sport in either one of those countries. But what was your gateway into American football? How did that all get started for you coming from Australia?
Yeah, so it was middle of 2019, so about 5 and a bit years ago. I started punting at a program called Pro Kick Australia, which basically just helps guys transition from Australian football, which involves a lot of punting and kicking the ball around, and helping them make that transition from Australian football to American style punting. And I went to Iowa for 4 years. I got the offer in October, 2019, so a few months after I started punting, and I kind of thought, man, I haven't really got too long to try and get this right. But then COVID happened. early 2020, and that kind of screwed a few things over. I was meant to move to Ireland. I think it was late May or early June, whenever it was. But yeah, that changed a few things. So I ended up moving over there in late August. It was. And then yeah, the season was cancelled, which was a little bit annoying because I was like, man, I've just flown all the way across the world to to go to school and not even play football. So that was a little bit annoying. But the season ended up getting back on track. So big thanks to Kevin Warren for that. So yeah, then
Yeah, that's
um,
right.
yeah, played 4 years at Ira. Absolutely loved it. Really grateful. Met a lot of great people along the way. Established a lot of relationships with guys that I still keep in touch with, and was fortunate enough to, to win a few games. And I think it was one of those things that's pretty well documented. I certainly punted a lot, so it was probably the right spot for me to be.
What's the process though like of getting recognized, by a Division I program coming from Australia? I know obviously for us in America, you go through the natural high school and there's all these rivals and 24/7 sports things that you can go to kind of get ranked and recognized. So how as a punter did you kind of start? How did that happen? How did you get the offer from Iowa? How did they come to find you all the way in Australia?
Yeah, so there was actually an Aussie punter at Iowa before me, who played in 2019, and then I think this the special teams coach at Iowa, Coach Woods, and my coaches back home in Australia. I think there's a little bit of dialogue between them, and then basically we just send film of my punts over to Iowa, and I don't know, Coach Woods must have liked what he saw, I guess, and offered me. And then he actually came out in January 2020, kind of right before COVID hit, and he was literally there for 3 days. And I don't know whether people know, but it's a really long way to go, especially
Mhm.
from Iowa. So yeah, that meant a lot for him to come out, kind of just to see me punt. And I think it was more so to kind of meet myself and my family and things like that. But yeah, it's a pretty whirlwind experience how it all happens. But my coaches back home have done a terrific job, and they continue to do so as well.
Oh, that's awesome. And then how was the transition coming from a different country to America and having living here full time? Was it, personally speaking, like was that a little different? And what were the kind of the struggles or the things like differences that you noticed between Australia and living now in America?
I think the biggest thing was I obviously missed my family, but I always knew that I was going to. But there was obviously a few surprises along the way too. Whether it was
Right.
probably food. I'm a big coffee drinker as well, so that was a bit of an adjustment. It's not.
Is
I don't want to.
the food better or worse here?
Uh I would say it's certainly not as good as Australia, but I feel
Really?
like yeah, there's reasons for that. I mean, you're trying to feed 330 million people, whereas there's only 20, 23, 24 million people in Australia. So quality is probably going to be a little bit higher. And I kind of like to use the example of McDonald's. Like in Australia, you might go to McDonald's and you might be waiting for your meal, or probably 10, 15 minutes, which is frustrating at times. But whereas here, you kind of get your meal in 2 or 3 minutes. So I don't know if the quality is great, but food. I would say food in Chicago is unbelievable, and
Have you
probably
been to
more
New York? Have
surprising.
you tried food in New York?
No, I've never been in New York,
Okay,
but
well
I
you
would
got to
say
go to New York.
food in Chicago is definitely on par with Australia for sure. But
But
coffee nowhere
it's better
near.
than Iowa City, that's for sure.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, meat was pretty good in Iowa City, but outside that, there wasn't really much of a selection.
What's like the staple food in Australia? Like what are they known for?
See, people ask me that, but there's a range of different things. Obviously, probably seafood because you're so close to the water. Yeah, like fish and chips. That's usually my go-to when I go. That's usually the first meal I have when I go back home because it's just you can't really. I mean, you can get it here, but it's not the same.
I got you. So fish and chips is the way to go if you go to Australia.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
definitely. You won't be let down at all.
Okay, so then obviously you spend your time in Iowa and you do all your punting there, and I don't know how many points you guys actually really ever scored or how much offense you produced, but a lot of good kicks for you there. Coming out, did you have any idea where you could be drafted, and were you surprised by being taken what I think is very early for a punter, and where you were taken, and what was that like for you going through the draft process?
Yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, you experienced it as well, but you probably had a little bit more assurance, kind of knowing that you were going to be drafted pretty high. But I was kind of like, man, am I going to be taken in the fourth round? Is it going to be like the sixth round, the seventh round? Am I going to be drafted like not at all? But it was really one of those things that you kind of just you play the guessing game a bit, but the punting market, there was so many changes. You know, one guy was going here, one guy was going there. So, you know, one team would cut someone, and then you're like, oh man, maybe I'm a chance to go there, and then the next day they get someone else. But I obviously spoke to the Bears at the combine, but I saw that they only had 4 picks, I think, at the time. So I was kind of, oh, well, the chances of that happening are probably pretty slim. But yeah, I was fortunate enough to get the call on draft day. But I mean, you experienced it as well. It's pretty crazy kind of how it all plays out. Your phone's kind of going crazy that day. You know, had a couple of coaches from other teams ring me and things like that. But I was actually on the phone to my agent at the time, and then I said, "Oh, hang on, Bruce, I'm getting a call," and I saw that it was an Illinois number, and I was just like, "Holy crap, no way!" Because I knew they were coming up to pick. Because I really wanted to come here because it's just down the road, and it's like Chicago. I mean, I know everyone's pretty biased here, but it really is probably one of the major sporting cities of America.
Sure. And, absolutely, yeah, you got a fan base.
Yeah, the Bears are absolutely crazy fan base too. So yeah, I was absolutely stoked when I got the call. Yeah, it was pretty surreal few minutes for sure.
That's awesome. In the draft, what did you have to do? Did you do any of the measurables or the running or anything like that?
No, definitely not. And people ask me, what would you run in the 40? And I've never ran a 40 in my life. So
no reason to.
What's that?
I said there's no reason to.
Yeah, there's no reason to. And yeah, even people were saying that, like, don't do that. Because you know, we worked out the last day. Like, I got there at the combine on the Wednesday, and we didn't work out until the Monday.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really, I mean, you experience it. You kind of just sit in the hospital for 7 hours and then meetings here or there. But yeah, my agent kind of said, you know, you're only going to go out there and pop a hamstring or something like that, and then you can't even do the workout, and then you kind of, your name's crossed off a lot of lists. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there was no point running a 5-3 and getting 2 reps in the bench press.
Do you know 2 reps in the bench press? Do you know Tyler Newsome at all?
Yeah. Yeah, the punter, old punter from Notre Dame. He would have repped out a few reps on the bench press for sure.
I think he did 30 plus when I was at ND. I'm not even kidding.
That's crazy.
He's a freak like that. And like just a maniac in the weight room, all that type of stuff. We would have things like on Wednesdays for workouts, and I'm sure, you know, in Iowa you guys have a really good well-known strength program. But we had things called SWAT teams. So there was a group of 8 to 10 guys and a SWAT team. There was probably 7 to 8 SWAT teams that accumulated the whole football team.
Yeah.
And you racked points out during the offseason program in the winter.
Okay.
And the team that had the lowest SWAT points had to come in for an extra workout on Wednesday at like 6 a.m., which was just brutal. It was an extra hour of conditioning.
That's terrible.
So Tyler Newsome was one of the SWAT captains. And even if his team didn't have to go to the Wednesday workout, he would always show up at 6 a.m. to go do the SWAT team workout just because. Like, he was a freak. And these workouts were absolutely brutal. And this guy continued to show up. But it's just funny. Like, you see some of these crazy punters that are like that mentally. And I didn't know if you had done you don't seem like this, but
no,
I feel like done all the 40 and the bench press and whatnot.
I feel like there's no in between. Like, there's guys repping out like 30 or 40 reps on the bench press that are punters, and then there's probably guys like me that can really only do 4 or 5. So I feel like there's no in between whatsoever. Yeah, I'm glad he's representing us punt as well.
No, he is. He does it really well. Okay, we actually got a stat up here that I think Steven's going to pull up for us here, but we did the win percentage changes for the Bears after each of your punts, and I think this is pretty cool per ESPN. And so the first one, obviously, almost 2%. Another % there. Unfortunately, maybe it was a bad punt or something. -3, but then 7 and 8% there to end the game with a net gain and a 22.7% chance to win from his punts alone. That's a pretty cool stat. Talk about that.
Yeah, that actually is pretty cool. I'm trying to think of what that negative one was. That was a 61-yard touchback. So that was one of those balls where
that was a good punt, though. I thought that was
it was, and I was a little bit surprised that I could actually kick it that far into the wind. But I was like, man, I'll take a touchback, 61-yard punt. But yeah, that's actually a pretty cool stat. I didn't know that actually. Yeah, that's actually pretty cool.
Well, it just shows how much you guys affect the game and the field position and Oh, and we're just being told that it's actually bad math there by whoever just tweeted that out. It's actually 14%, 14.6% net, but still very good.
Okay,
anyway,
still in the positive. That's
still in the positive.
and still,
almost 15%. That's crazy. But talk about we had Kyle on kind of talk about some of the mechanics of kicking field goals and what goes into that. How do you create when you hit those punts? How do you get them to do the side spin, backspin? Can you really control that, or how does that all work?
No, and I think it was Austin Reed was actually asking me that today in the cafeteria. He's like, man, like, how do you get that side spin? And I said, you can't. And anyone that can tell you that they can manipulate the ball like that is an absolute liar. But I think one thing I will say is Soldier feels like pretty soft grass. So the chances of the ball popping up is increased. But anyone that says, oh, yeah, I can get it to bounce this way or I can get it to bounce that way is they're telling absolute lies. But yeah, it was obviously pretty special to kind of go out there and hit a good ball. And I don't want to give too much away or too many tricks away, but I know that I got the return. It was something that I did before, and it kind of worked out nicely. I was like, oh, perfect.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was
we're on the sideline, and I'm like, this dude's literally playing golf with his leg out there.
Yeah,
ball game, which is just sick. I mean,
yeah, and I was kind of like, man, he's a little close. I'm gonna try and like put this one to the right over his head, and it worked out perfectly.
Yeah, and so now that you've played 4 games, what's been the biggest adjustment or biggest transition you've had to make going from college to pro, if there's been any at all?
Man, like everyone is good. I was talking to Scott Daly yesterday on the sideline, and we were talking about just like probably how even the NFL is really in general this. Whereas in college, if you don't really perform, you can still kind of, scrape away with a victory here or there against a lesser team, but there's no lesser teams really in the NFL. Obviously, there's teams better than others, but if you don't show up one day, you're going to get absolutely killed. And I think you've kind of seen that. I mean, you've been around for a while. If you don't show up, it's hard to win games. And yeah, I think I'd say that's kind of the main thing and returner is a lot better. I mean, I'm really it's me versus a returner a lot of the time, and a lot of the time the returner is one of the better players on the team, and certainly in terms of speed and their ability to get downfield. So that's probably one of the major differences between college and the NFL. But I mean, you'd probably agree. I mean, people will ask me like, "Oh, what's the biggest difference between college and the NFL?" And it's honestly like night and day. There really is. Like,
it's not the same game.
Yeah, it's completely different. And sometimes I look back now, I was like, man, what was I even worried about in college? You know what I mean? you probably feel the same.
Yeah.
But there really is, like I said, people ask me, and I'm like, man, there really is no difference.
The margins are so thin in the NFL.
Yeah.
And that's why having somebody like you who can do what you did the other day is so significant, because now instead of having Matthew Stafford go 20 or whatever 75 yards for a touchdown or 70 yards to go get a touchdown to win the game, now he has to go 95 or whatever it is. And against that type of talent, against these type of quarterbacks in the NFL, like, you have to be able to have that, and to gain those 2 or 3 extra first downs in a drive is very, very hard, especially going against our defense. So when you got guys like you who can boom it like that, it's pretty special to watch, and it's been a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, okay, I appreciate it, man.
Last thing for me, I know we've talked about this, and I always think it's funny, and we hadn't really gone. I didn't talk much about this with Cairo, but we have all these meetings, and we're going over film review. We're going over play install. Obviously, those are not, you can only install so much and watch so much film as a punter. So what the heck do you guys do for the 3 hours while we're meeting before practice?
Man, that's a great question. I mean,
and I'm not saying you guys are lazy. I'm just.
Well, I was about to say
what goes on.
People do give specialists a bit of a knock, and there is a little bit of truth to that. Like, there is a lot of kind of like sitting around and waiting and not doing a whole lot. But during that couple hours, I mean, we'll meet as like a whole position group to watch, film from the previous practice for 20, 30 minutes, and a lot of the time we're kind of in there solving the world's problems and whatnot. But in the other parts of the day, I mean, I know Kyra, he kind of likes to play a bit of FIFA, or we'll kind of like watch the soccer on the TV, or we'll all go like do our own individual things. You know, I like to go in the sauna and the hot tub and the cold tub a lot. So we all kind of do our own thing. But yeah, we're not learning hundreds and hundreds of plays. And I will say, at dinner on Saturday night at the hotel, Austin was actually showing me like the play call sheet, and then he said that he's like, "Oh man, this is nothing. This is for one game."
Mm-hmm.
And I could not believe the amount of information that you guys have to remember. It was really eye opening for me, because I was like, man, okay, like I see why guys get paid a lot of money. Like it's not just a physical, it's not just a physical thing though. You know what I mean? I kind of thought guys get paid because, you know, they're really fast or they can catch the ball, which they can obviously. But I was like, man, just to even remember this stuff is amazing. And I think that was really, really eye opening for me. And it was one of those things that I was kind of like, wow, that's something I'd never really thought about, because I've never really had anything to do with it.
Yeah, I feel like very rarely when you get to the NFL can you rely just solely on your talent. And there's a few guys in this league who are the freaks of the freaks that they can get away with that because they're just that talented, whether it's on the defensive side or offensive side of the ball. And, you know, you just give them the ball and they can just make things work because they're that special of a player. And but most guys, and you have to be able to know what you're seeing, what you're looking at, and be able to adjust on the fly. And but there's definitely a lot that goes into it. And then one more thing, just piggybacking off that. Obviously we're looking at that call sheet. I'm reviewing that over and over again, trying to go through, okay, this play, if they give me this coverage, this is how I'm going to attack it. If they do this, I'm going to do this. This is how I'm going to adjust my route. This is how I'm going to adjust my block. This is what I have to be ready for, all these stunt calls, whatever it may be. And I know that going into a week. What are you thinking about? How do you prepare night before the game mentally, and what kind of goes into that? Are you pretty relaxed, not thinking about much, or are you kind of visualizing what you're going to be doing the next day for the game?
Yeah, so I think one thing that helps me is I actually went this past weekend, and I'll do it from now on as well. I actually went to the stadium just to try and walk around, because I was talking to Cairo. We were checking the weather app, and it was the same wind pattern on Saturday night as it was going to be on Sunday. So I was kind of I'll walk and have a feel, and it was literally exactly how it was on Saturday night on game day. So I think that really helped as well. But I mean, I kind of like to just chill out and you know, whether watch TV. I was watching the Bama versus Georgia game as well, and I kind of just like to chill out and not take anything too seriously. Because the game's played 3 hours on Sunday, so there's no point sitting in your room stressing about things that haven't happened yet. And I don't want to play the game in my head or anything like that. But but then once it's kind of time once the ball's kicked off, that's when I really try and just lock in, but also stay relaxed as well, because that's when I'm at my best, I feel like.
I love it. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on. 4th rounder from Iowa. Just some immaculate punts the other day. You got everybody juiced up on the sideline, and very rarely does a punter juice up the whole defense like you did. And, you know, that gives a lot of confidence to those guys when they go out there, when they see what you can do. So it's been a lot of fun watching you throughout camp. I was glad people can see what you can really do the other day. And I know there's a lot more to come. So appreciate you coming on, my man. And
absolutely, man. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you. Thanks.
The 85 with Cole Kmet is presented by Ankin Law. Howard Ankin is a third-generation lawyer in Chicago and has built one of the largest injury law firms in the state. Howard Ankin is a member of the Illinois State Bar Association, Illinois Trial Lawyers Association, the American Association for Justice in Washington, D.C., and the president of the UIC Law Alumni Association. Ankin Law has over 90 attorneys and staff based in Chicago, with offices right off of Dearborn in Chicago, and also in Rosemont, Schaumburg, and Orland Park. The leading filer of workers' compensation and personal injury cases in Illinois, Ankin Law practices areas such as auto, truck, and rideshare accidents, slip and fall, premises liability, workers' comp, medical malpractice, social security disability, and wrongful death cases. And when it comes to our commercials, the Ankin Law brand has been aligned with Chicago sports for over a decade. We especially like to associate ourselves with Chicago athletes long associated with Chicago or from Chicagoland, such as Io DeSumo, Nicky Lopez, and Chris Chelios. With an intake department of 16 people, including 2 attorneys, Ankin Law takes the time to listen to the people who contact us. Even if we don't sign the case, we try to steer the people who contact us in the right direction to get the help they need. After all, Ankin Law is injury law made personal. They're here to help. Visit AnkinLaw.com to learn more. And the 85 is also brought to you by Circa Sportsbook. Whether it's pro or college, the app to bet football is Circa Sports Illinois. Circa Sports, it's sports betting the way it should be. Circa Sports Illinois has high betting limits, low holds, and exceptional customer service. Bet on all your favorite teams in every game this season. Spreads, props, futures, or in-game. Circa Sports has it. Fund and bet like a pro from anywhere, anytime in Illinois. Download your new bookie today at circasports.com. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right, good stuff there from Tory Taylor. Heck of a game the other day. So that was a cool interview. He's funny to talk to, man. He's a blunt guy, but he's a lot of fun. He's a good kid, and definitely glad to have him in the locker room.
Have you come to appreciate anything about punting that you didn't know before, just from talking to him?
Well, I always thought that he can control the spin thing.
Yeah.
I totally thought he was doing that on purpose, and I did not know that he's saying it's all BS.
Can I say that I don't agree with him, even though he's the one who knows what he's talking about?
That's what I feel. I feel like he's just saying that. I don't
because I swear, I watched so many of his punts in training camp, and I've never seen a punter have more ball spin backwards than forward.
Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't know that he's doing something.
Yeah, maybe it's just naturally how I know for pitching, your natural arm slot is kind of what's going to dictate the path of the baseball coming in. Maybe his natural leg swing is just how that works, which is just unbelievable.
Well, the ball spins the opposite way in Australia, right?
Is that how that works?
I don't know.
That's what they have. They have different. Yeah, they have different balls and they spin the other way. Yeah, that makes sense.
When he said that, I was like, I don't know, man. I swear more of your punts go the opposite
what's
way.
Funny, well, because we had Cairo on, and he's given all the details of the laces and how he's approaching the kick with the wind, and so I thought he was going to come on and sit. We were going to get something really good in terms of where the ball's kicked off your foot and where the laces or how they're at, or how he positions the football before he kicks it. But he's saying none of that.
Yeah,
which is wild.
Well, it was awesome hearing him talk, and especially to have him rebound from the game he had the week before in Indy, which he obviously wasn't happy with, and to have such an impact on the game and the win.
Yeah,
in just week 4 as a rookie,
it's big. That field position's huge.
Yeah,
it's huge, especially you got the defense that we got, and he can do those punt and pin situations. That is so big time, and it was cool to see him have the game that he did the other day.
All right, well, let's turn the schedule now to the next game, Carolina. Coming to town for the second year in a row. Your keys to the game are presented by Circa Sports. Download the Circa Sports Illinois app at circasports.com/Illinois-app. So what are the keys to get this thing going and win a couple games in a row?
Yeah, well, I think offensively, again, starts with the run game, and we got to be able to carry over some of the things we did last week and be able to continue to establish the run game early so that we can open up some of those things down the field for us and, stay physical at the point of the attack in that regard. And obviously that'll help with Caleb's efficiency and whatnot, but it all starts with the run game and what we do up front. So we got to be physical and in terms of setting the tone and doing all that. I think defensively, it's about creating those turnovers, and they've done that week after week, and on our end of that, we got to be able to take care of the football offensively. But those guys continually get pressure on the quarterback. Andy's who everyone's very familiar with. He's a veteran quarterback. He's done very well the past couple weeks, and he's gonna expose you if you get in some bad looks there. So we got to get pressure on Andy and make him feel the pressure in that regard. And then in the kicking game, being good with our kicks at Soldier, and it'd be nice if we have another game like that we had with Tory. Maybe we don't even need any punts though this game. That would be a good situation. But if we do, and then at the end of the game in a 4-minute scenario, a good punt and pin at the 2 or 3 yard line wouldn't be too bad.
Steven, our awesome producer, asked you a question off air, and had you thinking a little bit. Is Andy Dalton the first former quarterback that you played with and now you're going to play against?
Yeah, I think we came to the conclusion it's yes. I've played Mitch a couple times in preseason, but never in the regular season. Obviously, we haven't played the Steelers or Justin yet. And then I can't think of any of the other guys that have.
Well, that
played.
list we had that one video of you listing 10 guys.
All the 10 guys.
So I feel like maybe there's one we're forgetting, but I don't know.
Now, do you go talk to your defense and say, "Hey, here's some things I know about Andy that could maybe help you guys"?
Well, with Andy, it's already on the tape. Like it's nothing like he does. He's just gonna read the defense out. You know what I mean? So I mean they all know all the things that they maybe want to disguise or get corrected with. But quarterback's not like a defensive end position where I'm going against a DN for the week and I can call somebody up that I know and be like, hey, what's his go-to move? Like a quarterback doesn't have like a go-to signature move. The go-to move for the quarterback is throw to the guy that's open. You know what I mean? So a little bit harder in that regard, but I'm sure guys will want to know what he's like throughout the course of the week, and I'll give any information I can.
I think if someone wanted to get really technical, you played against Tim Boyle, but before he was a Bear. So the opposite.
Okay.
So I don't think that really counts. Like somebody,
Yeah, I don't know if I'll count that one.
Yeah. But I think that would be the only. I think you're right, though. I think you're right.
So this is the first time, which is interesting. I wouldn't have thought that.
Well, should be another fun game at Soldier Field before you guys head to London.
Yeah. So another home game, and then we're off across the pond to London.
I did want to ask you about this week because, especially in the NFL, you guys are so week to week.
You're right.
This is the only game that matters. But when you have a trip like that coming up, what type of, even if it's just like nutritional, taking care of your body type of stuff, are there already things that like flus in strength and conditioning that they're pushing this week, even though the trip's not till next week?
I wouldn't say necessarily pushing. I think it'll be big, obviously, for when you're ever in flight, making sure you're pushing your fluids and all those type of things, and eating properly and hydrate. All that stuff's always very important. But I wouldn't say there's not anything more on it than usual, I would say. I'm sure we'll talk about it more as we come up to it after the game this Sunday, in terms of how we'll handle the flight situation and getting your sleep and rest and all that. But at the moment, no, nothing much right now.
Well, regardless, we'll be in London next week, and we are we're planning on bringing you an episode of the 85, one way or the other.
We'll figure it out. Whatever. We'll get it done. We'll get it done. The 85 across the pond. We'll get it done.
That'll be a good one.
Yeah.
I know I'm excited for the trip, and I think the players. Are you for international game? We can talk more about it next week.
Yeah. We can talk about more next. But I'm very excited. I was hoping we'd get one this year, and I'm excited about it. Definitely, for sure.
Well, in 2019, it was awesome. I mean, it was a cool experience, even though the Bears didn't win that game. And the difference was the team went on Thursday that year.
Yeah, quick turnaround of the game.
Yeah, and so we'll talk more about this next week when we're there. Yeah. But I think it kind of creates a cooler experience for everybody involved, including the fans, when the team's there all week.
Sure.
Too. So should be a lot of fun. All right, you got a question for me this week?
Yeah. What's your preferred way of watching football, on television or in person at the game?
So this is an interesting question for me. I get asked this quite a bit because I spent over a decade at every game and in the press box, and then traveling to every game too. And now for the last 3 years, we've been in studio, which is a much different experience. I think there's a level of buzz that I still like being in the stadium.
Sure.
But I think football's a TV sport.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. I definitely find myself really enjoying when we have like a bye week and I get to just sit home and watch Red Zone the whole day. Like I'm like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Like I get it. Like I get why people are crazy about this stuff and why the whole day is dedicated to this one sport. Yeah, but I do like watching it on television. I mean, when playoffs come around, I think it's a great visual. Not saying I wouldn't go to be in person to a game or anything like that, but I guess I do that enough. I don't know, but I definitely think it televised as well, and it's fun to catch up on all the games while they're happening all at the same time as well with the red zone and all that stuff.
Well, here's one for you. London next week will be the first game I'm in the stands for since I want to say 2007.
Oh, wow. Well, that'll be fun.
The Bears beat the Steelers. I think that was right here. Bears beat the Steelers. Robbie Gould hit a game-winning field goal.
Wow.
Like, this was before I was working in –
yeah.
I was still in college then. And so, like, ever since, I've been working. You're in a press box or you're here in studio. So we're actually gonna be in the stands. My wife and my son will be. I've never gone to an NFL game with my son before. He's 10 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be a blast.
That'll be cool.
You'll enjoy that. That'll be good.
So that I am looking forward to that, but I do in general agree. Like, TV's
especially.
I love the Amazon games because they have the alternate broadcast with the all 22 feed too.
Yeah.
So I have 2 monitors. So I'll put the main broadcast on one TV, and then the second one I'll delay the all 22 so I can see the replay.
I feel like whenever I've gone to a game when I was younger to the stands to watch, I always feel like I miss out on everything else going on around the league. I mean, I'm sure there's people that could care less, but I kind of like to know, to be in touch with everything that's going on.
It's hard on Sundays, to be honest with you, even just us covering the Bears game, because we're focusing on the Bears game. Then we're doing a post-game show during the afternoon game.
You're like, oh, this happened and this happened?
Oh, my buddies in my fantasy football league are like, it's not fair. You get to be in the league. Like, you do this for a living. I'm like, I guarantee you watch more football on Sunday than I do.
Yeah, you watch, different array of teams. Yeah, for sure.
You guys should be better at fantasy football than me, and actually they are. I'm 0-4. So that's how it should be.
Well, on that note, we'll get it done in London some way, somehow. So we'll be 85 across the pond next week. I appreciate you guys tuning in to Victory Tuesday, and we'll see you next week after the Panthers and before the London game.
And the 85 is powered by Ankin Law, injury law made personal. They're here to help. Visit ankinlaw.com to learn more.